Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Taking the Lead. I'm your host, Ken Jacobs, principal of Jacobs Consulting and Executive Coaching. You probably know all that. And Taking the Lead gives me a lot of joy because I get to interview respected leaders, mostly from the fields of PR, marketing, advertising, public affairs, etc. Sometimes it's dear friends, sometimes it's just acquaintances, sometimes it's friends of friends. I'm going to introduce you to someone who I've known for quite some time. It is Christina Stokes. She is the SVP and Director of Talent Acquisition for Rubenstein Communications, which has been around, well, long before I was in the business. Let's just put it that way. Um, Prior to joining Rubenstein, where she's been for quite some time. She was the director of talent acquisition for MWW, now known as Mike Worldwide, longtime contributor to PRSA's strategies and tactics. She has the hire and seek column, and that's where we probably first connected. And then we both had the joy, the fun, the challenges of appearing on as board members on PRSA tri-state region. That's where we really got to know one another. And I'm just so excited to share her wisdom with you today, everyone. Christina Stokes.
Hi,
Well,
Ken. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
it's great to have you here. So let's dig right in. Three leaders, inside PR, outside PR, doesn't matter, that you think are absolutely inspiring. And then, of course, tell us why.
So, anytime I get asked a question like this, I really never think of a celebrity or even a seasoned communications, or in my case, a talent acquisition pro. I always lean towards the people who've mentored me directly in my career, and they are the ones that I seek to emulate and tend to be most inspired by in my field because these folks, they're leaders of people. They've inspired me to be better in so many ways. So I always think of my top three: Erica Weinstein, Angela Calzone, Jason Boltax. These have been supervisors of mine in people, in recruitment, in HR, and I feel like every one of them has really just taken the time to help me hone my skills. They're all great humans who care. You can feel that they care. Years after I've worked with them, we maintain connections. I think that goes to show the truth of my statement. And I've been able to really lean into my values through my work because of their tutelage. So those are the folks who inspire me most. I think that just shows up through my work and my life in so many ways.
Well, I'm fortunate that I know one of the three, the one with the best name. I'm going to say it, Angela Calzone. How could you not love someone named Angela Calzone? And I don't remember the details, but thank you, Angela. You got me a training gig once. I don't want
Awesome.
to. I'm pretty sure it was at WW, wherever it was. Angela, thank you, thank you, thank you. So you hold two certificates related to mental health. Why do you think this is such a great concern today? Why must leaders, as part of their responsibility, step up and something that they weren't doing maybe 10 years ago, but really being proactive, encouraging their team members to take care of their mental health?
I think that's a three-part process, right? So for me, it starts off with personal connection. I've always been an avid pursuer of maintaining my own balance and mental health. I prioritize that for my child and my family and my friendships. I'm always like, therapy is great. But also when you
Sure.
look at it, it is. But when you look at it professionally, it's business impact and it's something that leaders need to prioritize across the board. So my certificates are in mental health first aid and also workplace mental health. And I think that leaders have to be essentially equipped to support whole humans, not just employees. There's so much more than the face in the boardroom, and we need to be aware of that. The human element, I'll always talk about that a lot. Um, in recent years, over the past 5 years, even remote work, increased isolation, hybrid work, all new stressors, talent shortages, shortages, retention. problems across the board in public relations, in any industry that you could think of right now. We're just in a unique space and we've been there. So mental health is impacting turnover at companies pretty directly. You see people talking about burnout and all kinds of things. So we're in a place where this isn't maybe this will come up for me as a manager. It's going to. So leaders have to be able to create an environment where people are comfortable and where they can be honest about their struggles, where a leader can recognize any potential warning signs in an employee that might be experiencing an undue amount of stress or burnout. It's the PR industry in the world I work in, so that's kind of
Mhm.
par for the course, but you have to be aware of it. They have to know how to respond appropriately in these circumstances. And I specialize in talent acquisition. So I see how mental health impacts job performance, interview anxiety, career transitions.
Mm.
I think that leaders who really understand this, they're going to be able to hire better and retain staff more effectively long term.
Absolutely. I think part of it is generational in
Mhm.
that Gen Z cares about this and they're aware of their mental health. And I think they look for that kind of support from work, which is something a boomer or a Gen Xer were we even aware of it? And would we think that our workplace should give it to us? I don't quite know millennials' take on it, but thank you again, Gen Z, for making this important. It also, reminds me that if you want your people at any generation to be mentally healthy, the leader should be willing to talk about it, talk about what they do, talk about their mindfulness, talk about their exercise, talk about maybe limiting when they review email and respond to it. Leaders, if you want your people to take care of their mental health, and you do, then they need to see you, not just hear you talk about it, see you doing the same for yourself. So anyone who knows anything about you, anyone who's met you, anyone who reads your column knows that you are a passionate advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion. I like to use all three words. Clearly, those three words are under fire. How can organizations maintain their commitments in today's environment?
This comes up a lot even in my own workplace at Rubenstein Communications. I'm one of the founding members of our internal DEIA council. I'm still an active member. Now we do incredible programming for staff whenever we can, I know that that's not the same in every workplace, so I'm actually really excited to still be able to lean into that. It's important for me on a personal and professional level. And the climate around DEI is hostile. And so I think it's important for us to really just look at that. It's not what it was even 5 years ago, even 1 year ago. So we just need to reframe it. It's still a business necessity. It's not political agenda. I think organizations abandoning their commitments are making a strategic mistake long term because DEI, what does it do? It expands and enhances everything from talent access to innovation, market reach. There have been studies done. You're getting better decision making, expanded talent pools, and more authentic relationships in your company to brands for clients. How is any of that a negative, in my opinion? And so throughout my career, I've seen how diverse teams, they're consistently overperforming homogenous teams. They just do. It's in the dollars and the cents and the
Yeah.
hiring and the retention. So that ROI is pretty clear if you measure it correctly. So I would always recommend continue with diverse interview panels, bias training, inclusive job descriptions, employee resource groups, help with community building. That's really important if you want to retain great talent in your workplace, especially with newer generations. So, and leadership should be held accountable for this also. And you can create measurable goals. Across the board, it should still be a priority and it's only helping business.
I love so much that you focused on the dollars. Maybe we need to do something with the dollars in DE and I, because it is a business decision. And if you look at companies that have held true to their commitments like Costco, they're killing it. Their sales, their stock price, they're killing it. So I think it does take some courage in today's environment. And that's what I think leaders are figuring out. So speaking of courageous, I'm going to be courageous here. I've been public about my view that the PR industry promotes executives from management to leadership because they're great at PR or comms or digital or biz dev and certainly clients. But they don't always take into account the specific leadership skills required to effectively lead people, to have followership. What's your take on all of that?
I am in your camp on this. 1,000%. Technical skills and client know-how does not ever automatically translate into people leadership, into being a great manager. And that does not come naturally to everybody. The person bringing in the most business and doing the best client work at your firm does not necessarily need to manage a team of 30 people. That might actually not be a great thing for them to do at all. And some people who aren't your top performers might be the best people managers that you could have, and then you retain your talent. So you have to really consider it from both ends. But I see it in hiring and employee growth trajectories all the time. So I'm on your side with this, Ken, for sure. I
Thank
think you're welcome. I think I look beyond the technical skills. I like to think about how that when I'm interviewing someone, even how are they talking about developing others, not just delivering results? If they have managed people, what does that look like? If I'm interviewing someone who will be managing someone, I do like to try to speak to a former direct report, even just to
Yeah.
get a sense of what this manager is really like. How do they handle conflict? How do they give feedback? How do they build trust with the people who are going to report to them? It's so important. And so it's a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset, if that makes sense. Being curious about the people and the team and the firm and the culture, not just the process and the clients and the business. So you have to be intentional about developing your leaders. You can't just promote someone into a role where they're going to now oversee staff and expect them to knock it out of the park. It's unfair to that person and
It's
the
unfair
people
to
who are going
everyone.
to
Yeah.
report to them. Yeah.
Because it's really hard. Leading
Mhm.
people is really hard and challenging. And I remind people in the field that, there's no tombstone in the PR cemetery that says they doubled their budget. I mean, it's very nice they doubled their budget, but that's not your leadership legacy. And, I've mentioned over the years in the podcast amazing leaders who I had the joy of working for: Gene Schoonover, Barbara Hunter, Lenore Cooney, Marina Marr. And they were just so inspiring to me. And I think in some way helped contribute to me, leaving the business, but creating this new chapter, focusing on leadership. You'll notice something those four leaders all have in common. They're all women. What might that say about women's potential to lead? I think it's pretty proven. Okay. So I was about to say we don't talk much about PR in the podcast. We just spoke about PR. We're going to talk a little bit more about PR. Because we both, I think, freely give advice to PR newcomers and job seekers. What's the most important thing a candidate can do today to stand out from the pack and get noticed by the Christina Stokes of the world?
Can I give you more than one thing?
Of course, hey, they're all listening, they're all watching, so sure.
I respond most to authenticity over perfection. I want to
Mm,
see your actual work. I want to see your portfolio, your case studies, measurable work that you've done. I love when people are really honest about challenges, how they overcame them, where they see they can continue to grow. Not what's your weakness? I don't like that question. Like, what are you, if you were to assess yourself, what are your growth opportunity areas? Um, I want to see cultural fit, not just skills fit. And then relationship building, right? Are you following up after the interview in a meaningful way? There's a difference between your generic thank you note and creating a long-lasting connection with me. Um, how you engage with company content, how you network within the industry, not just when you are job hunting, right? That's the
And
most
it's all
important
out
thing.
there, right? It's all out. We can see it on LinkedIn.
Right.
So
And then consistency is very important. So how you're branding yourself across your LinkedIn, your resume, your interview answers, even if those mediums are different, they should all lend to the same story. And we'll notice the discrepancies if they don't. So be aware of how you share your story. And I also love to see passion for the work. I think when you apply, I just want to know why this role, why this company, not just why you want or need a job. And I know that's asking for a lot in a very tough job market when you're applying to 100 jobs, but at the end of the day, it has to connect. And it shows genuine interest if you're able to be specific in those ways.
so for those are all great pearls of wisdom for all our entry level, even beyond entry level job seekers. I think it's true at every level. Um, that authenticity is so important. And I advise job seekers, even in a challenging market, don't send out 100 resumes. What are the 10 or 20 or 30 companies where you really want to work, and why do you want to work there? Figure out if you have a connection who can help get you in, who can pave the way. Do your research about the company and tell them why not only it would be a good fit, but what you're going to bring on day one. And not just that you want to learn. I think we know you're open to learning. That's great. What from your past interning at the college level or summers, or even if you were waiting tables, what did you learn about people and about influence from your experience? Take the time to connect it back. And I think that will drive the authenticity people like Christina, I think are looking for. Last question has nothing to do with PR. So you think you know someone, right? In preparing for our chat today, I learned you have a diploma in music and music theory. What have you learned about leadership from the world of music?
Surprise, but what is music, right? I think music's a conversation. When you're making music or listening to music, you have to hear others. If you're playing an instrument, if you're singing, you have to respond appropriately. So, like leadership, right? Kind of tying it back into the theme of your podcast, leadership requires listening to what's said and what's not said, right? So I
Mm,
think that's important, and I take that away from music. Timing matters, knowing when to lead, when to follow, when to stay silent, when to listen. And not everybody can do that. So it's an important takeaway if you look at it from that lens. Um, I think my role in talent acquisition and hiring is finding people who can complement but not duplicate existing strengths, which is similar in music. You don't need
interesting.
too many doing the exact same thing. It's how it all works together, and that's music and working in general. But
Fantastic.
yeah,
Fantastic. So true. We don't need another trumpet. Maybe we need a French horn. Maybe we
right.
need a clarinet or an oboe to really round out our orchestra. This has been even more fun, even more joyful than I even anticipated. If people want to get in touch with you, how do they do it?
LinkedIn for sure. Don't rely on that inbox though, because it is pretty heavily inundated on a regular basis. But on my LinkedIn page, I have a link tree as well, which can direct you to all the platforms I'm active on, and I'm always happy to connect with new people.
That is so great to hear. And I just want to thank you again, my friend, for being on,
Thank you.
taking the lead. For any of you, if you want to reach out to me, discuss leadership, leadership coaching, agency management. You all know the things I do. Please find me at KEN@JACOBSCOMM.com. I'll say it again, KEN@JACOBSCOMM.com. And as we always say, until next time, keep on taking the lead.